Welcome to today's reading. Now, I wanted to get to this reading last week. I feel like it's pressing. I feel like there's something going on here behind the scenes, but I'm not sure what that is. Now, our media, I'm talking about those warships in Australian waters. China did not alert the authorities that they would be doing war games, live ammunition in our waters without letting us know. It was reported by a commercial airline pilot, so a Virgin airline pilot reported it, and then our planes have been redirecting so they don't fly across that area. So something is going on, but they're not telling us what it is. Our government's being a little bit cagey when it comes to, I feel, the full insights. Maybe that's to do with the politics and the campaigning, and they're worried about how to tackle this situation properly. So I have a few questions around what's going on. I'm hoping the card will shed some light here. I'm hoping the cards will reveal what's going on, because really I have no idea. I just sense something's wrong here, and I've been having dreams about this as well. So when I usually have dreams, it's indicating that something's happening here. I feel there's so much other stuff going on in the world at the moment with Ukraine. I feel it's grabbing all the attention with the headlines, and it's very intense in the world. But I wonder if there's a connection. Now, is there a connection between China and Russia and somehow playing out around our areas? Now, could they be mapping something out, as some people have been saying? Could it be related to our politics? Could it be related to Russia and sourcing what? Actually, we had in the predictions reading something about energy crisis or power plants. Could they be mapping out where our power plants are? Who knows? It could be any one of these things. But I'm going to let the cards speak first of all. I'm going to do a reading. First spread is going to be letting the cards know what we should be looking into here, because there's something going on below the surface that it's not on mainstream media, and I just need to be pointed in the direction about what questions to ask here, so I can put my finger on what is wrong with this situation, as well as asking the very in-your-face kind of questions as well, about obvious questions when it comes to Chinese warships in our waters in Australia. So let's get on with this reading. Isn't it interesting that these cards have fallen out here? Now, I did that whole shuffle them with my eyes closed, so I couldn't see any of the cards. That's not the reason I do that. I do that because I'm tapping in and asking questions as I go, so I'm focused. But I couldn't choose any of these cards, not that I ever do, but it just shows what I was speaking about in the intro to this reading is on the table right now. Because I was asking the cards, what direction should I be looking here about the Chinese warships in Australian waters? And some of the things I thought it might have been was Russia collusion with China. Could it be related to our politics? Why are we not being told what it's like? They're not taking it serious. Our media and our government don't seem to be taking this seriously at all. They're really focused on Ukraine, but I feel like maybe they're fearful about how it affects their campaign. We've got politics as the first card on the table. So the things I was asking are the things the cards want to talk about when it comes to these Chinese warships. I am so invested in this reading. I want answers. I want to know what's going on. We're not being told. Politics are not telling us. There's lies and deceptions on the table. So in fact, they're probably lying to us. They're saying it's just war games, or they're nothing to worry about here. Don't look here, look over here at Ukraine. Lies and deception. So there is definitely something going on around here, going on with this. Now, it's to do with holding power. As I said, I've been a little bit skeptical, suspicious about us going into an election and then China showing up. So our politicians haven't announced yet, but they've started campaigning. They haven't announced when we're going to hold the elections, but they've started campaigning. And Chinese warships show up in our water. Are they spying? As one of the questions I thought might be. Are they listening in to what's going on? Are they trying to feed the narrative one way or another as to who holds power in Australia, because that affects them? They do have investments, or they have in our area, in our waters around Australia. They've got things that they want to be doing in Solomon Islands. I think it's Papua New Guinea is another one. And we are kind of, us in New Zealand are kind of preventing that from happening. So who is ruling in our politics here in Australia does affect the outcome for what the plans are for China in the future around the Solomon Islands and Papua New Guinea. So they have a vested interest in our politics, I feel. And isn't it funny that this has been my sneaky little suspicion about what's going on here, and it's on the table, card number 1, politicians and government. So maybe that's one thing. Maybe that is what's going on. Maybe they're kind of listening, or they're planting seeds, or they're showing their might, that they are here. So it's interesting. It's like they're showing that their power, they're flexing. This came up in the readings, that flexing that power, and that's how the reporters announced it on the TV the other day, was that they're showing a force of might, because it's not just the warships in Australia. They were firing on one of our ships in the waters around Australia. Their planes were firing. I don't know what it was they were firing, and I've put it in my comments page, in my community page, but that happened first, and then they send warships. Something's going on here, but we're not being told what. There's lies and deceptions about what is really going on in this situation. So it could very well be related to who's holding power in Australia and how that affects foreign countries, how that affects China, how that affects even Russia. Definitely China, because China taken by force. That's a scary card to have on the table. So are they trying to make plans to take Australia by force, or take one of the countries around us by force? And they're just sussing out what military we have, what power plants we have here. Now, some of these things have been coming up in the other readings. I was getting the power plant card, or energy crisis in some way. People are saying that they might be mapping something out around Australia, where our military bases are, where our power plants are, our energy supplies are. Maybe they are mapping that out. One of the dreams that I had a couple of weeks ago was I was staying away near the water, but in my dream I was watching the horizon, and I could see actual bombs going off. And what they were doing, they were measuring distance from here to here, and they were using something, and they were firing bombs. So whether they were measuring how far their reach was, whether they were measuring how far from here to here when they're looking for something, but in my dream they were measuring something out as they're going along the shoreline, measuring something. But I was watching projectiles or watching missiles fire off on the horizon of the ocean in my dream. So very interesting. So that's why I'm really drawn to this reading. Now, this is without even asking any questions. This is just me saying to the cards, point me in a direction of what I should be looking at here with this reading. And we've got foreign threat, taken by force. They are very full on cards. Now, the classified knowledge here is just indicating that maybe politics do know. Maybe the politicians or the rulers do know what's going on, but they're just keeping it classified. They're not letting us know, because we really don't have too much information about what is going on here. They're practicing war games, or they're, letting off live ammunition into water surrounding us. But I feel it, that there's something else actually going on. It's not what they're saying. That's just lies and deceptions. Look over here, where they're deceiving us about what they're saying it is. They're not saying anything about what it is. They're just keeping it quiet. They'll talk about it sometimes on our media, but mostly we're distracted by meetings between Trump and Zelensky, or now we've got European nations showing on our TV screens. Keir Starmer's back on our screen again this morning on the news. So we're seeing a lot more of that kind of stuff going on, but there's something going on here with the Chinese warships. So questions that I do need to be asking today is straight out, is it related to the political war in Australia, our political campaigning, and how that affects China? Whoever gets into leadership here in Australia is going to affect what plans China has with the surrounding countries around us, the smaller countries around us. So maybe that affects that. Are they looking to take Australia by force and just mapping out what we've got? That's a scary one. It wasn't one that I was thinking, but these two cards on the table are quite scary, and me having the dream about measuring something out, measuring how far missiles go, or measuring something along the coast, this is very scary, these cards. So maybe that is a question that I need to be asking, one I didn't think of before logically. And to do with holding power. Now, holding power, are we talking about who's holding power in Australia? Are we talking about China holding power? Are we talking about Russia holding power? What is this card here? So let's get on to these important questions. I thought I would just pull a couple of cards just from my Stardust Shadows, just with this first layout. No question here, just to see what those cards would say. They're saying there is a cover-up, it's a covert mission, it's a negative mission, it's negative and covert, but it's somehow related to the past. Six of Cups in the upright position is indicating something to do with maybe they've tried to do in the past and have been unsuccessful, or something they did in maybe one of the other wars, something related to the past. I'm a little bit stuck for words here with these cards. They're pretty in your face. There's no political cards. I thought it might have been related to our politics for some reason, flexing their muscle, showing their might in, our politics have to go a certain way, and showing what they can do to us if we ignore that, if we don't do what we're supposed to do, if in fact we're affected by China, like if China affects I don't know if it does. It's just weird that we're going into campaigning and they're showing their might, they're flexing their muscle, but there's nothing, it's not on the table, it's not here. So that was my thoughts, what it might have been, but by these cards it's more worldwide, it's more related to military action worldwide, explosive results, foreign threat. These are quite difficult cards. Keeping it quiet, so they are, and they really are keeping it quiet. Meanwhile, they're advancing on our waters, and I think they were joined by another warship, another couple of warships even. They're advancing into our waters. Keeping it quiet and under wraps. I guess that's so it doesn't affect our politics and their campaigning. But really what's going on here is bigger. It's more worldwide based. Almost feels like they are mapping out. It almost feels, and I'm going to ask that question on its own, but it more feels like preparing for military action. They're a foreign threat. Now, generally, we have a good relationship normally with China. They're one of our trade partners. But when it comes to worldwide threats, given our allies, we're probably on different sides. And that's why it's a foreign threat. Even though we have a good trade relationship with China, when it comes to what's being prepared for, maybe they're just sussing out what we've got here, how we're able to defend ourselves, because maybe if something does break out, then it will form an opportunity for them to move into our area, as far as they've been trying to get their hands on other countries. Seeing what's going on in the world as an opportunity here, so maybe they're just sussing out what we've got. But I'm going to read these cards out, what's on the table, in case you're not watching the video, you're just listening. I asked the question, is it related to politics? They're showing it's more about foreign threat. It's more a worldwide situation rather than a home-based political race. It's more about military action around the world, preparing for an explosive situation. In case war advances, we've got medical advance, but I feel like it's the advancement of explosive situation, or advancement of military, because But our government, because I'm asking the question about our government is keeping things quiet. That's where our government fits into this. They're keeping things quiet. What is really happening here is a foreign threat preparing for a worldwide event involving military, explosive situations, and the advancement of military. Okay, so let me ask the question, are they mapping out where our military bases are, where our power plants are? Is that what they're doing? Is that their reason for being here? What I just asked then, a lot of cards fell out, so I'm going to run through everything with you. This is a yes card too, by the way. What I just asked was, are they mapping out what Australia's got, what's around Australia? Now, the thing, the answer is yes, that I have. It is part of what they're preparing for, planning for, measuring out something, mapping out something. There's a reason behind everything. Battle, warship, yes, sitting on top of each other. Change is coming, preparing for change is coming. There is a distraction or illusion going on. We are being distracted, as I said at the beginning of the reading. We're being distracted to look at Ukraine. Meanwhile, there's all this stuff going on. Again, we've got taken by force. What are they taking by force? Are they preparing for something? These cards are really quite heavy. Okay, but there's a lot to go through here. So we've got a false flag or a red flag operation. Red flag means danger. Red flag means there's red flags here going on with this situation. Warship, battleships in our area from a foreign threat, pose a foreign threat to us. Do they? Yes, is the answer there. An explosive situation. It could result in an explosive situation. They are maybe preparing, and when I talked about power plants, kind of what that card there looks like. It may not be, it may just, well, they're firing live ammunition, so that's what the explosive situation, logically, that's what that is. They are firing live ammunition off our shores here, and they're a foreign threat warship. These make sense. This is what's happening. But this card here, taken by force, it's the second time it's appeared. Changes are coming, preparing for changes coming. Advancements. We've got housing issues, something around housing issues, but medical advancements. Doesn't mean medical, it means advancing. So warships advancing. I think they're just being prepared. Changes are coming. Now these cards I want to go through. Doing this in the shadows, hiding underground. Maybe they're hiding something. Maybe they're hiding their true intentions. Maybe this is taking place underground or underwater. I did get that in one of the readings for March. We've got the fake news, which means Trump, but it could just be fake news. Tension escalating. So meanwhile, the distractions that's going on is tension escalating around Trump. So Trump and Ukraine here on the TV media at the moment, which is a distraction. Maybe this does escalate the situation. What happened with Trump on the TV, or what happened with Trump and Zelensky yesterday? Maybe that is causing tension to escalate between Ukraine and Russia. Taken by force again. I'm talking China here. This question is related to China, not Russia, not Ukraine, but China. But we're seeing all situations that are relating also to Russia and Ukraine here with Trump and escalating tension. These things will be heating up. Maybe they're going to stay put in our areas just to be prepared while the tension escalates and heats up here. The other questions that fell out is something related to money. They need urgent and need to act now for the greater good. Something to do with something being detained in a spot or imprisoned. Taking somebody out. Rebellion or uprising. I don't know if they're related. They fell out in a clump, but these are quite strong, intense cards here. I'm just going to ask, are they preparing for World War III? Basically very similar questions. Now when I talk about are they preparing for World War III, we had the strategy and planning. So that sounds like a yes to me. It sounds like they're strategizing and planning. On the mainstream news though, we're probably more likely to see things about mosquitoes or viruses, like when we talk about the Wuhan laboratories in China and COVID and airborne situations, mainstream airborne. Okay, may not be. So let's get back to really basic grounded information here. Airborne, so it's not just military battle warships here, it's also airborne. That's interesting. Okay, so maybe there is going to be something around viruses being announced on the mainstream news. We get it all the time. It's not nothing new. We see the H1N1 bird flu talks about that all the time. This is bigger. This is more serious. This, we're talking about an explosive situation. I think I've seen this card on the table today 3 times, these ones. This is what we're talking about. The cards are on it. The cards are worried about it. They are saying it's urgent. Act now. It's an urgent situation. Here it's saying battle warship, but also airborne. It's not just we're worried about these battleships that's in our waters, but don't forget there's also issues going on with planes with China and Australia as well. It is airborne as well, waters and airborne. Mainstream news. Strategy and planning going on here. Preparing for a rebellion. Being prepared. Strategy and planning. Being prepared for a rebellion. Okay, so I was hearing the song We Didn't Start the Fire, and I saw the fire card come up there before. The Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire. So there was something in that spiel of sounds that he said. I didn't catch what it was, but that was the song. Okay, so we didn't. That's the song that I'm hearing. We didn't start the fire, but it's going on around us. And I'm not talking about a literal fire here either. People of Australia, the Australian citizens, have anything to worry about here. Again, we've got the imprisoned, detained. Look, I don't know what it means. I think it's beyond my comprehension, or it's different than what's ever happened before. So that's why it's nothing that I can draw from experience with this imprisoned or detained card that keeps coming up. An experimental test, foreign occupation, imprisoned or detained. We're talking about public people, more so public life burnt out. We're probably more talking about publicly recognised figures here. Unexpected results, replacing or exchanging. That sounds political to me. It sounds like looking to replace or exchange political leaders, people in the public life, public figures. Bringing in unexpected results. Something we're not expected, something we wouldn't expect. Okay, I'm just going to let the cards pull finally. Anything else that we need to know? A card sitting over to the side there. Tension escalating. Okay, the relationship. How does the current relationship between China and Australia stand? What is the current relationship between Australia and China? Okay, the answer to that is a conflicting situation. Clashing forces, a conflicting situation between Australia and China. The other cards that have just fallen down is betrayed or backstabbed, surprise attack. I guess them being in our waters without letting us know is a bit of a surprise. It is a bit of a betrayal of how we normally run things. A cyber attack, imminent or likely. Heavy burdens. Here we've got something to do with social media. Could be TikTok, could be the new AI, Chinese AI. Something to do with shadow rulership in the government, in the background. Mainstream news, again, virus or airborne, and or for money and politics. Okay, I'm just going to pull one more card from my other deck. I more want to bring hope to the people of Australia, because this is a very intense reading. It's made me a little bit more nervous about the situation than what I previously was. And I know when I do readings like this, people say, what do we do? What would you suggest we do? And I'm going to ask the cards, what should we do? What should we do? See what they are saying. Okay, so we need to care for each other. Changes are coming. We need to connect to our spirituality. And don't forget that negativity and fear is actually very bad for current events. So don't forget that. Don't try not to be fearful. Try to really have a really good firm foundation when it comes to your belief systems, your connection to God, connection to source. For people, we've just got to care for each other. We're really got to tap into our source connection, our spirituality, keep our spirits high, I guess, with this one here. Inspired creation. Just try to be inspired. We create our destinies. We are co-creators, and that's what this card is representing. So where I talk about before, when we're surrounded by negativity or we see negativity on the TV, it's really their way of trying to get us to co-create together for the outcome that they want. So we need to not participate in that through fear, and fear is how they do that. They feed off our fear, but they also use our fear to create what their narrative is or what their plans are. So we need to not fall for that. Don't give out our energy. Don't give out our fear to them, because we're co-creators, and very powerful co-creators, and they know that. So we have to be very careful about falling into that trap on a personal level. Care for yourselves, care for each other, and just progress, to make progress that way. But there may be changes coming around us. So thank you for sitting through this very intense reading. Got to remember, sometimes with the cards, they can be very extreme, and sometimes it's just things don't happen as extreme as what the cards portray. They just look scary when they come out that way, but sometimes it's not as scary as what it seems. Sometimes it plays off in the distance, it plays off in the shadows, and we don't actually see all this stuff playing out, and it doesn't affect us personally. So these cards are just speaking what we can do individually. Doesn't seem to feel like it's going to affect us too much. We just need to try and keep our spirits high if we can. But I do see the situation between Australia and China. There's a bit of a conflicting situation here with Australia and China.